contraction of the throat chakra, and you have an expansion of the mental body. So your energy is not blocked at your throat because you squeeze your throat. Your energy is blocked. There is no in and outflow anymore through Chandra Bindu. So it actually has nothing to do with the throat other than the throat chakra. The gap between the mental body and the throat chakra has become too big to bridge for the energy. While in the normal condition, the gap is such that there is transference of energy up and down. Jalandhara Bandha leads to Ajna chakra widening and the throat chakra contracting. The gap becomes so big that energy cannot flow through anymore. That is the story behind Jalandhara Bandha. So it is initiated, especially in the beginning, by consciously stretching up the neck. When I have explained the other two mudras, I will tell you what the next step is. This Jalandhara Bandha mudra. Mula Bandha mudra is a contraction of Muladhara chakra. Surya Bindu, the sun gate, the entrance of Shakti and the outlet of Shiva energy, symbolically or allegedly lies in the center of Muladhara chakra. To apply Muladhara chakra, because mudra is not understood and practiced physically, if not by finger movements or hand movements, then Muladhara chakra is practiced by squeezing the pelvic bottom muscles. They do this very much in Ashtanga Yoga. When you do that, when you squeeze the pelvic bottom muscles, you create rajas. And in practice, that leads to the generation of sexual energy. That is not desirable. We want sattva, especially during meditation. Squeezing of the muscles is gross. Nothing what we do in the meditation is gross. So, in the beginning, Muladhara chakra, you were told not to squeeze muscles, but to try mentally, by using visualization, imagination, to contract this ball. And by contracting the ball, you close Surya Bindu. This is all a little bit story, symbolical. But we will get there. What is interesting when you are focused in Muladhara chakra with Mula Bandha mudra is that energy is generated. This energy is called Apana Prana. Apana Prana is the typical energy responsible. Remember that all chakras have their typical function, quality. The function of Muladhara chakra is excretion, and the energy responsible for that is Apana Prana. Apana prana is inherently Shakti. All action is Shakti, expansion. Excretion is driven by expansion, by rajas. When you have to go to the toilet, it's a strange story, but there is sweat in between your buttocks. When there is fear, which is Shakti generation in Muladhara Chakra, you start sweating under your armpits, and even smell occurs as a result of fear. But anyway, Shakti energy, which rises up. Shakti energy is expanding, is rising up. If you have become healthier and more energetic, you feel this. You feel this slight sense of excitement in your belly, the lower belly. Same kind of excitement you experience when you do something exciting, like a roller coaster ride or so. A roller coaster ride is, of course, very, very violent in this sense, far from subtle. This is subtle. So you feel that whirl of energy, you feel that slight excitement. It rises up, and the theory goes, or the story goes, that it mixes with the energy from Svadhisthana Chakra, which is Samana Prana. This energy together, that's why I circled it, together forms one energy body. The next step is that the energy from both Muladhara Chakra and Svadhisthana Chakra together then mixes, becomes one with Manipura Chakra. This is all below the diaphragm, in between the diaphragm and the groin. And in fact becomes one big new energy body, energy ball. The typical energy of Manipura Chakra doesn't have a specific name, it's simply prana. So we call it generic prana. See where this is going? Keeping in mind what we learned this morning. Energy rising up with Sambhavi Mudra, for example. We want to break through the glass ceiling of the diaphragm. It is because of this phenomenon that at some point in the first year or so of your yoga practice, you do indeed break through the diaphragm and the heart chakra opens. Every yoga practitioner experiences that. Your heart opens literally, you develop compassion. Maybe you already had compassion, which is likely of course. It becomes deeper, stronger, wider.
When that happens, you're not saying it happens only in the meditation, you're just saying it happens generally, right? That you break through the...
Yeah, people who are very tamas, they do not have this phenomenon happening. People who are tamas but engage regularly in physical activity, they are likely to have some form of this activity taking place, but it's dim. When you practice yoga, it's focused entirely on this development. So it's very effective and it will become more and more intense.
But I mean, it's not necessarily like during meditation that you can feel that happen. It's just in your life. It starts to happen.
Yes, of course. But the problem is that most people Most people are, in the first place, not aware of what's going on down there. Not even when they sit down and close their eyes and try to be quiet. In the beginning of your development, you become especially aware of this while you meditate because you are focused and relatively silent inside. So you open up sensitivity towards these kind of subtle phenomena. Later on, of course, you start noticing this also while you're not on your cushion, while you're not on your head. So this is Mula Bandha Mudra and the result of Mula Bandha. The phenomenon what is occurring here is not only known in yoga. In Korea it's called Danjan. It is Hara in Japanese. So if you ask martial artists, where is your Danjan? They usually point somewhere above their navel, solar plexus. If you ask a monk, where is your Danjan? He will point at his lower belly, below the navel. Somewhere at the level of the pubic bone. The reality is, Danjan is neither here nor there. It's this whole area. So you become full of fire. And if it is correct, your digestion, as a result of this, improves considerably. But we will come back to that later on. Also the digestion issue and the details. Let's stick to the mudras. Uddiyana Bandha Mudra is built upon this phenomenon. Uddiyana Bandha Mudra is the upflying bird, the flash of energy that you, in the beginning, you are told to focus on this, and when you feel that you have generated a large amount of energy, you then, with a wish, let it fly up like a hot flash. Uddiyana Bandha. Uddiyana Bandha is a little bit elusive. And in the way that we have learned these three blocks, to apply them in pranayama, they still are kind of elusive. They are superficial. Why? Because you're not familiar yet, you're not that sensitive yet to sense this energy activity. But you know what is much more interesting about those three bandhas? They are also called Tribandha because they are actually one. They happen spontaneously. In the beginning you are taught to do them by wanting them to happen, and almost in a physical way. If it is correct, or maybe from now on, you have noticed or you will notice that when your meditations are relatively going well, it becomes kind of intense, something happens spontaneously. You're sitting on your cushion, you immerse yourself, you start with pranayama, and already you start erecting. Not because you tell yourself to sit more straight, it happens spontaneously. That is this phenomenon, energy rising. And when meditation becomes really intense, not only during pranayama, but the whole rest of your meditation, those three bandhas are engaged. You stretch up, the muscles in your pelvic bottom also are engaged, but gently, so not by squeezing, but gently. And you feel that energy rising. And in reality, Uddiyana Bandha is not an upflying bird or a hot flash or so. Uddiyana Bandha really is the opening up of Sushumna Nadi and you experience that in the form of like a huge column of energy rising and continuing to rise. It's that feeling, that sense of being sucked up. That nice feeling of acceleration of energy that you experience in meditation. And so the three bandhas, in the beginning, when we're not so experienced and not so intense yet, we need to just actually do it consciously, but that is more to become familiar with the concept than to have an effect from it. And at some point, you are so concentrated in your pranayama, but also in the rest of your meditation, that you erect. If I'm just sitting like this, my belly is weak, soft, protruding. But when I meditate, without doing effort, everything becomes straight. And the belly is tucked in, and the pelvic bottom muscles are engaged. But this is all subtle, so people don't recognize it. Once you know it, you pay attention, you say, yeah, indeed, it's happening. When you have experienced that, then the bandhas become very easy. You don't have to think too much about it, and actually they are all three engaged spontaneously. Yeah. Okay, that were the three bandhas. Surya Vedana, Shakti in, Shiva out. Sambhavi Mudra, pride, artistic tendency, beauty, ego, loyalty, solidity. And the rest of the time you build nada as intensely as possible. You have noticed the second handout, lesson 2, only exercises. There's an interesting anecdote about Cyclops, which were in fact half-gods. As for the rest, it's not so important, but it's maybe just an interesting anecdote. Nice to know. What I forgot to mention this morning is that at some point we are going to have many lotus pose variations. Lotus. And some of you are already able to take on a lotus pose, but some of you are not. Lotus pose is said to be the ultimate meditation pose. It's with both insteps of the feet on the inner thighs. It's a complex pose, puts a lot of pressure on the ankles, but also and especially on the knees. The knees are not only stretched very intensely, but also twisted. So it can be dangerous if you're not careful. So, first there is the warning, always be careful. We did have a very ambitious student in the past who was not really ready yet for a full lotus pose, but forced himself into it. He needed surgery later on. So just follow your feeling, and if it hurts, don't push too much. Practically, you can prepare, starting from today, with a pigeon pose. Pigeon pose, much less than the actual lotus pose, Padmasana. The pigeon pose, Kapotasana, actually starts with stretching up those muscles that are involved. This is the pigeon pose. We have some variations. This is just the basic pigeon pose. You can lie down. Sleeping pigeon pose. In the beginning, you're probably quite uncomfortable, the hips, the thighs, the knees maybe. But if you do this regularly, you will quickly develop room, flexibility, and start putting your foot forward more. The more, the better, of course. Why? Because at some point you are going to put your foot behind your head. And we have several variations where you do that also. If you know in advance that that is coming, you can gradually start preparing for that. And the day that the exercise comes along on the schedule, you might be very close to actually being able to do it. So you repeat the pigeon pose on both sides and gradually bring the foot forward more and more. There's also a royal pigeon pose that is not relevant to the lotus pose, but then you try to put the back of your foot, the sole of the foot, in the back of the head, like this. And if you're really flexible and have long arms, then you grab your foot, put it against the back of your head. Since we have no major topic to discuss, we can actually just try this pigeon pose, sleeping pigeon pose, and see where you stand in this respect. It will be, it won't be really soon, but maybe next month or so, September, beginning October, I think there are going to be lotus variations on the schedule. In the shoulder stand, in the headstand, in the dangling pose. There are quite a few of them. Is it too hot in here? No? It is pretty warm, but I think the central air conditioner has kicked in. If we can stand this, we don't have to turn on that horrible air conditioner in the corner. Rotate the foot. Yeah. How? Oh, in the rear?
Yeah, in the rear.
Your knee is this knee?
This knee feels.
Use 2 or 3 mats. Just make cushioning for your knee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's because of the pressure on the neck, and if the underground is hard, it can be unpleasant. Just use more mats, or actually ideal for this is a blanket. A blanket, or if at home, if you sleep on the ground, like Korean people do, it's the ideal yoga mat, really. At home, if I practice yoga, I always practice on my mattress.
Oh.
It's thick, it's padded, it's perfect. It's not good for standing pose, but it's perfect for everything else.
Oh.
Yeah. pigeon pose, I remember 25 years ago when I did training, it was on the schedule we are using from Ajita. For some reason he took it off. But it's a marvelous pose actually that involves all parts of the body. It's stretching major muscle groups, and especially in and around the hips. It's very important. It's the foundation. That is where Muladhara chakra is. And also core strength in the upper body. It's a marvelous exercise. Ian, try to go a little bit deeper into it. Stretch your leg back. Yeah. Yeah. Until your groin tears apart. Yeah. The point is really that you try to come as low to the ground as possible. In the beginning, when you're not used to it, it's quite a challenge. It can be so uncomfortable that you can't stand it, almost. So it's a matter of staying calm mentally, staying in control mentally, breathe yourself into it by breathing deep and calm, and then gradually the muscles will start to cooperate. Wonderful pose, and even gracious at that. If you practice on your own, if you do that, make it a fixed part of your routine. You will see you will greatly benefit from it once those exercises come around. But yeah, we have to be careful. Do not force anything violently. Try to apply at the same time the principle of non-violence. If it gets too hot, you can just turn on the air conditioner again. Huh? Yeah. How old are you? Are you married? How much money do you make? Obviously, you are a reckless person. And oh, should I
Yeah.
shove it in
Yeah.
my face? Yeah, maybe you should. No, we know from experience with the Ujjayi also. If you're already aggravated when you do it, it really blows you up. Yeah. Well, you're the boss. You want to do a sheet money instead if you know that it's going to have a bad effect on the control.
It's an excellent exercise for the body particularly, but if you're already a firefighter yourself, it will just make you less present.
Well, it is a little bit sweaty. Really? Yeah. The first exercise on the schedule for lesson 2 is Virasana. It's also really wonderful exercise that strengthens especially the knees, the ankles, and the hips. And together with the previous pose with Kapotasana, good preparation for Padmasana, the lotus. The Norwegian pose is called Kapota. And the sleeping pigeon pose is Supta Kapota. Hero pose is Vira. And we have a sleeping hero. It's called Supta Vira. So if you feel like, then throw this grandmama out of the window. I mean, if you feel like, then lie down in Supta Virasana after sitting in Vira. This is putting a lot of pressure, especially on the knees and ankles. If it is painful, then sit on a cushion. If you continue doing this, you really get used to it. Ankles and knees become not only much stronger, but also more flexible.